Guys. Last night, I had a crazy dream. You want to know what it was? Oh, wait, geckos don't even dream. Sorry, guys, false alarm. See you in the next session. But at least I got your attention, right? Any gamer in the house? Awesome. Hey, did I ever tell you guys that I got some money from a play-to-earn game? Though this was after 3 days of endless grinding. Which is why I cannot wait for the gamify industry leaders to inform us how they are dealing with some of these issues and what lies ahead for this industry. We have panelists from big players in the space like Axie Infinity and Animoca brands. And of course, the moderator of the session, Eric Su, a Web3 investor, trader, and builder in the blockchain space. Take it away, Eric.
Okay, welcome to GeckoCon 2022. This is the panel for what's next for Web3 Gaming. I'm Eric Su, CEO of GamePad.co and X Network Capital. So we have a really distinguished guest today in the panel. We'll talk about what's coming up for the Web3 gaming space, which is very exciting. So let's start with introductions. So maybe we'll have the order as Robbie first, then Alexander, and then Young from Animoca.
Awesome. Hi everyone, good to be here. I'm Robbie Ferguson, co-founder at Immutable. Immutable is the NFT platform powering the next generation of Web3 games. We work with some of the biggest gaming content in the world, and we power our scale using zero-knowledge rollups to make sure people can have more than 10,000 transactions per second, fully secured by Ethereum. So really excited to be here, and you may know us through some of the games that we've built in-house, such as Gods Unchained and Guild of Guardians.
Yeah. All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Alexander, one of the co-founders of Sky Mavis and Axie Infinity. I handle pretty much everything on the business, finance, operations, legal side. And in Sky Mavis, we're also making we're using everything that we built to go to market with Axie to also help other game developers who want to create blockchain type of games. They can use our distribution platform, our wallet, and also our marketplace for very easy kind of go-to-market with their own games. So yeah.
Cool. Richard.
Hi everyone. I'm Robbie Young from Animoca Brands, and we make games. Some you may have heard of, like The Sandbox or Phantom Galaxies, MotoGP Ignition. And we're also a very active investor across Web3, having made small minority investments in lots of companies, present company included.
Yeah, so as a start, like let's in your own words, what's Web3 gaming? Let's define it. Go ahead, Robbie.
Sure. To me, Web3 gaming is pretty simple. It's games where players can truly own property rights in their virtual worlds. And so this means it might be the skin inside Fortnite or the coins inside Candy Crush, or even the DAOs that run the way that these games work, but the fundamental idea is that we are sharing true player ownership and value with the end user.
Cool. How about you, Alexander?
Yeah, I think that's a very clear definition. To me, I would also say say the same. So I don't really have too much to add. I guess what I would probably say is that the benefits of this is that players can actually truly benefit from the time that they spend inside these games. In the past, when they've just been like playing games, you've not been able to bring anything with you from one game, not necessarily to the next, but in your journey online rather. So I think everything that we do in Web3, it helps define your digital identity, and that usually begins within games and the game items that you accrue over time. So when you find game items inside games, they get put into your wallet, and then as you progress in life, you bring these items with you, or you can view them more as your trophy cabinet, and then potentially other game studios maybe will make stuff for them in the future, or you can use them simply to prove that you actually did something in that was real. I think Web3 gaming is all about bringing more reality into games, I would say.
Cool. Your turn.
Yeah, and I would add to that, actually. I think you touched on it, Alex, this idea of interoperability, the idea that you can, once you own this stuff, it's yours. So you should have the ability to be able to bring it from place to place wherever you go, and not just have it sort of locked inside a walled garden. So I think the idea of interoperability and the platforms being open and sharing those in-game items, the usability of those in-game items amongst each other is a very important principle.
Cool. So Web3 gaming really sounds exciting, right? So what's holding it back? What do you think is the biggest problem with Web3 gaming right now?
So I'll jump into this one. I think the most common criticism leveled at Web3 gaming is, I don't want to say usability, but I'd say user onboarding. And I think that that's because Web2 has been brilliant around particularly centralized mobile platforms at giving consumers an incredibly simple onboarding process, because most consumers forget that the hard part of the onboarding they probably did 10 years ago when they first set up their payment method and their ID and everything on Google, on the Google Play Store or on the iTunes Store. And so now when you buy something, it appears to be very simple because you forget that actually you put in 20 steps 10 years ago and it was a pain in the ass, but you've forgotten about it. So now 3 clicks and you're in and you bought something. So I think consumer expectations have been slightly misled to think that that's how things should be, because at this point in time, the service delivery is excellent. But it took a long time to get to that point. And I think in Web3, it's still early days.
Cool.
Yeah, to echo that, for sure, it's a big pain point to onboard people. I guess I would say also like accessibility of these games is quite hard to discover games. And of course, the quality of games that have been shipped so far, I would say are still in the experimental phase. What we've seen with Axie is that, they're one of the first games that we did ship, which, arguably is lacking a lot in terms of, Web2 functionality. When you're looking at like live operations, for example, it just simply wasn't there. And yet, we reached, 2.7 million or so daily active players at the peak of that game's life cycle. So, what I would say is that as we are, shipping more games that are better, more fun, more accessible, and, have like, as we're learning more about these like underlying in-game economies, it will be easier for people to also to onboard and then to kind of have different expectations of these games rather than coming in only to earn, for example, which is a very interesting way to capture attention. You will need to have very sustainable type of games, that are like entertainment platforms where people play for fun. And then eventually, they become owners and then spenders. And from there on, you basically have a solid foundation of games, basically a solid business, except, people that actually have true ownership of their game items. So yeah, I'm excited about that in the coming years.
I think Web3 gaming is supply side constrained right now. There's an insufficient supply of quality gaming content, and it's too difficult for developers to build a high quality game with a good business model. And so to me, the solutions are make it very, very simple for anyone to start building blockchain games, which is why Immutable has gone with an API first approach. Because really, if you're asking developers to start smart contracts, you've just lost 99% of your potential builders. And the second thing is, how can you actually, if you look at the mobile gaming era or the social gaming era, when Zynga first popularized using the Facebook social graph and performance marketing to create amazing sort of social games, they turned that into a playbook which many fast followers suddenly could understand how to build a successful game using these sort of principles. Same thing happened with mobile gaming. Same thing happened with free-to-play gaming or gacha gaming in Asia. And we need that moment where we have content hits which drive sustainable playbooks for other people to very simply build content. So building a successful Web3 economy has to be as easy as sort of, well, cool, that there's a playbook for me and I can plug in my MMORPG or my MOBA or my FPS. So to me, it's mainly on the supply side. The value prop is there. If we get this right, and there are amazing and fun games to play, that the demand will come.
Yeah, I think kind of saying or echoing that a little bit, it's definitely, I think, easier said than done, right? First of all, like shipping like I think when we're seeing at Web 2, right? Shipping a game there is, it's becoming easier, right? Because there is a playbook. And as you said, right now, there is no playbook in Web 3, but that's also really where the opportunity is, because there's just a blank canvas to actually experiment with. And suddenly you find pockets of opportunities like we did with Axie and kind of the play to earn model with breeding and stuff. And now I guess we'll see, like, are there more innovation moments where you can find these like really clever business models? Ideally, you would have that as more sustainable. And then I think it's only a matter of time until, we need more of these things that kind of to bridge the gap. Or, it could also be solved by just having more generally like fun games, which have, Web 2, I would say feature parity, but, with Web 3 magic sprinkled on top. That's another, path rather than just like genius level or some random innovation that suddenly happens so that people suddenly discover it. But let's not discount that, because it happened and it's probably going to happen again.
Yeah, and I think a lot of sustainability also just has to do with the sheer sort of scale of user interaction, because you need a certain number of people to play against. You need a certain number of people to have an economy for the economy to actually matter in a game. So I think once games start to have a little bit more critical mass, and Alex, obviously you achieved that with Axie spectacularly, I think we'll see a lot more examples of this. But the reality is that the Web3 gaming player base is very small still. So it's challenging for all but, a few of the top titles to have enough critical mass to really be able to demonstrate sustainability.
Yeah, and that note, like the traditional games industry is like 2.6 billion gamers, right? And I think the best data we have for Web3 gaming is Axie, right, with 2 million. Like, so there's like a big gap there, and the traditional gaming community is very hostile to Web3 gaming. Like they kind of like really hate it. So and then they have a litany of like reasons that they cite, and like how do we bridge those contentions so that we could bring more of them to our like fledgling industry?
So who wants to address the haters? I can jump in. I think, what I've observed, at least, and I've only been in the game business for about 10 years, but I started out in the transition to mobile. And so what I observed at the beginning of the mobile era of gaming was a lot of hostility from a small segment of the gaming community towards mobile, because this was a very new medium. And I can't tell you how many people said nobody will ever play games on this tiny little screen. You got to be kidding. That's insane. But mobile is arguably the best thing that ever happened to gaming. It more than doubled the number of gamers in the world and made gaming into the biggest entertainment medium. So I think sometimes it's just difficult for people to embrace a new medium that seems quite, seismically different from the one that they've been doing before, because you have to rethink how you create your experiences, and the experiences are different. The experience Angry Birds was successful because they pioneered using swiping in a game which was well suited to a mobile screen, rather than trying to replicate you remember the first games on mobile tried to replicate joypads and joysticks, and it just didn't work. So they embraced the medium, and I think that's what we've seen, for example, with Axie, is an embracing of the medium, because they flexed their DeFi muscles and other things that you can do with Web3 that you can't do in other kinds of games, and that's what makes it novel. So I think that, you know, the adoption will happen over time, but the one big piece that we're still missing at the moment, in large part, is mobile. Because if you just look at sheer numbers, mobile onboarded most of the users in the world to gaming. And so at the moment, because of uncertainty of how the platforms want to embrace Web3, the mobile platform specifically, I think most of the focus of game development has been on browser and PC-based games.
Yeah, I'll fill in a little bit there too, Robbie, because I think what we're mentioning is definitely a big part of the thesis for Axie, right? So when a lot of people are looking at Axie, they see a simple mobile game and they're like, oh, you know, how can this be? It doesn't fit in my AAA crypto elite mindset, right? Basically, what we're saying here is, you know, we don't care about like graphics, fidelity. Everything we care about is accessibility, because we believe that, you know, to onboard millions, if not billions, of players into the blockchain ecosystem, we need to have it very easily so that people can, you know, just play these games without really thinking too much about it. Now, to kind of bypass some of these app stores, we, you know, had to make our own distribution platform basically. And, you know, the old Axie game, it wasn't even available on any app stores like Google Play or iOS or anything like that. I think with the new Axie game, what we're trying to do is actually ship it a crypto, like I say, free to play friendly version on the traditional app stores, so that people can just like experience these games and see like, hey, they're actually fun to play. It makes sense. And then onboard into Web3 from there. And I think that's also a little bit of why people are kind of scared about this, about like when it comes to NFTs in general or blockchain games, is that, you know, they might hear about Axie and think, oh, I need to like pay $200 or something to play the game. And then everything is about kind of getting ROI. It shouldn't necessarily be about that. Like that's a part of the narrative that, you know, some people have made, which I think is, you know, it's fine for a certain extent, but, you know, in the end, we always knew that it has to be about accessibility. People need to be able to play the games for free, to try it, to experience the funness of it. And then actually, if they want to, you know, they can take the next step and onboard into Web3 from there. And I think that's what's going to have to happen as we're educating, like I would say, normal people into these benefits. They can't initially it can't be any different than Web2 games at all. Like we have to get to feature parity there. That's the first step.
Yeah, in my personal view, we have to make games that gamers want to play. And the question is not how do we make gamers like NFTs? It's how do we make a game that has 100 million or 500 million players that uses the technology of NFTs to create a 10x experience. And this is the standard we apply for ourselves in innovating any industry. Unless you're providing 10x value, people will not shift. People do not care. There is too much friction unless you can innovate in that level of value. And, you know, like you said earlier, Robbie, people will not put in the friction of entering or setting up a MetaMask because their credit card is neatly stored inside the App Store. And so until we say, well, hey, this is what it feels like to be able to spend money on items that isn't just captured or even thrown away by the developer for Call of Duty Warzone 2, or whatever next iteration you're playing is really important. And then the second thing I'll say is embrace Asia. Like, I think the crypto market is overly focused on Western markets in gaming right now. And we've barely seen any cultural backlash for NFTs across Asian markets, particularly like South Korea, Singapore, the Philippines. In fact, there's been much more embracing of, in general, more economified games. I've just made up a word. But people are much happier to sort of have those usages of economies and real money gaming. And so I think that's a massive market where it's going to be an easier native fit. And you're going to require a more subtle use of the technology with sort of AAA titles in Western markets.
Cool. So what are upcoming Web3 gaming projects that you are excited about? Tell us why. How about you?
Cool.
Yeah, start.
Okay, so this is my chance to plug our new title then. So Phantom Galaxies, everybody. If you love transforming Gundam-style robots in space, Phantom Galaxies is your title. And this is one where we decided, you know, to go the full sort of AAA quality route because I guess because we can. So we wanted to try to demonstrate some type of quite a high bar of fidelity in terms of a Web3 game where people can have ownership of their robots and their spaceships and their planets. But at the same time, obviously, we have a variety of casual mobile stuff going on, like Arc 8, for example. So I think we're trying to be an equal opportunity developer, if you will, building for all platforms and all player types. Because I think, as Alex said before, we want to be able to be inclusive and bring everybody on board.
Okay. How about you, Alex?
I mean, I'm very excited about, of course, going to market with Axie Origin this year. I think that's going to be important. Like, actually, the entire industry should be following that to see as it gets listed potentially on app stores, or what happens if it doesn't, potentially. Other than that, from a Sky Mavis perspective, we've talked to hundreds of game developers so far. We're seeing across the board that are many exciting games potentially coming into the space. We have yet to see, we've yet to actually announce anything. But there might be something coming soon, which we're excited about.
Yeah, you have a lot of really cool games at the creator program, right?
Yeah, I mean, so there are many things, right? So from an Axie perspective, right? So we see Axie, or actually all NFTs, as platforms that people can build upon. It's all about getting that core community started first, and then people can build on top of these Axie game characters. So we have some things here. The main Axie universe, right? We're building first-party games. And we're opening it up for third parties, basically the community, to let them build. I think we had about 1,200 applications of people who wanted to make, like, from an amateur level. And now we're also seeing professional developers coming in wanting to build on Axie. So that's happening. And then from a third party perspective, right, who wants to use every tool that we've made from Axie? Who wants to use the APIs, the smart contracts, the go-to-market, tap into all the expertise that we have? There are many of those too, but we have yet to actually announce any of them. But we will in the next coming 3 to 4 months. And, we have a lot of faith that some of these games will be very successful. But we don't really want to announce too many, because it takes a long time to give these guys the level of support that they deserve, because the industry is so new, right? So we have to make sure that as they're going to market, they know what they're doing. Because if not, you end up with a game that's shipping like a pre-sale, which probably is not the right way to go to market at this point in time. It might have been back in the day, but what I believe in right now is you need to ship first and then sell something so that people can use it immediately. And then again, that generally, lessens the expectations from the community. So you don't end up in a situation where the community is basically, coming in all the time and saying, when. It should be rather the opposite. Ship a game, here's the asset you can buy. All right, fine. Now we can actually play with it. You're waiting to see what happens next.
How about you?
Look, we just announced a $500 million gaming fund. So we're really excited about that to really try and catalyze, I think, this next generation of high quality games building real economies on Web3. And I think that, to me, the exciting projects are the one where the volume is driven by utility. And in fact, if you look at Gods Unchained's volume right now, even throughout this market, it's actually increased in the number of NFT trades that are occurring. And that's because people trade these assets because they want to use them in DEX, not because they're speculating on the value. But obviously, I would be remiss to not mention Illuvium, who has been doing crazy things in the Web3 gaming space, who's obviously one of the partners building on the Immutable platform. They just did a $72 million sale, I think one of the largest Web3 sales of all time. And that was just a fifth of their land. They're building 3 games which all interoperate with each other, which I think is one of the first really powerful examples of how you can use interoperable assets to actually build this kind of like metaverse or universe of IP. So there's an overworld, which is sort of like an MMORPG mixed with a Pokemon, where you can collect these, alluvials, and then you can use them in Illuvium Zero, which is their auto battler or auto chess genre, which is actually one of my favorite genres. So I've been addictively playing this over the past couple of months. But yeah, exceptionally excited about this game. They've got over 200 people working full time on it. I think that's going to be one of the first truly AAA games out the door. And then some other ones are, Ember Sword, Planet Quest, Congregate. I think there's some really exciting Web2 players moving into the Web3 space. And the cool thing that I think is that every single person on this call is actually doing the work that helps these Web2 games to succeed in Web3. And that's exactly what is required of the incumbents right now. Is there's a huge heap of amazing game development talent. What our job is how do we actually help them get these games right get the go-to-market right, as Alex said, get the economies right, so that they can thrive on the things that are really difficult to do right now if you haven't been in the industry and experimenting for a while.
Cool. So like the context right now for like the whole crypto market is we're going into a global recession, right? So we're in the midst of a bear market. So how do you guys see Web3 gaming faring in this environment?
I guess if history is any, sorry, go for it, Robbie. I was going to say if history is any guide, then most of the best games were made in the last bear market. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah, look, I was going to say, if we're doing our job, Web3 gaming is gaming. How much do players want to spend in terms of time and money on regular games? And from past recessions, we've seen generally time spent on games goes up during recessionary periods by 20, 30%, not a crazy amount. Monetization goes down by about 20, 30%, particularly at like the whale end. Overall revenues are generally pretty flat. And you see gaming be reasonably counter-cyclical or decorrelated from broader markets. If we're doing our job, this should be the exact reason why Web3 gaming is the category that people should be most excited about in crypto right now. And I think there's a massive rotation from sort of more speculative narratives or use cases in crypto right now into these very, very credible businesses, which are going to have sustainable revenues and sustainable, most importantly, user bases. When we think about the total amount of crypto users right now, it's about like 30 million, like pretty much ever registered wallets. The first hit game that is even in the top 10 games by players globally will triple the total user base of crypto. So we're talking about an incredibly powerful on-ramp to one of the most powerful technologies that has been invented this century.
How about you, Alexander?
I think bear markets are actually great because it gets rid of a lot of the tourists that are in the space that might just be here to or they might seize an opportunity to do a token sale and then try to turns out that it's really hard to ship something, right? So I think we'll see consolidation and then some nice games that are being shipped, and then these games ideally will drive the new bull market. I think Axie is a big part of the catalyst for even the last bull market. So I think it's very natural for the I think. Like basically the onboarding of the masses to crypto will happen through gaming, right? So why did mobile phones or the app stores get popular, right? A lot of it is about games, right? Too, people want to play games, and it's a very easy way to make them understand the benefits of a new type of technology. And the cool thing here is, as they are onboarded into crypto through these games, that's really when things get exciting in terms of the fact that they can actually use these the assets that they have in their wallets potentially for other things too, right? So when we see something in Axie, right, so 50% of our users have never had crypto before, 25% have never even had a bank account before. These are opportunities that I think it's a massive market opportunity. So yeah, just have to keep building, and then I guess we'll see who can survive, and good luck to all builders out there. My advice here is just to kind of hunker down, don't spend too much money on stupid things, and then try to survive until either you ship something or the market ships something, and then a rising tide ships, so like lifts all boats, and then raise money, make sure that you can ship something as soon as possible.
Okay. Last question. What's your prediction for the Web3 gaming space 5 years from now?
Okay, I'll jump in with the long term. Go for it, Robbie.
We keep doing that. No, you go.
I'll give the short bullish answer, which is I think all games will become Web3 games. So I think it'll just be a matter of time before we stop using the word blockchain or Web3, and it's just games.
Okay, Robbie F, your turn.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's exactly right. What we're trying to do is make it so when people think about property rights on the internet, they no longer believe this lie that they've been sold for 40 years, which is just because something is digital, you shouldn't have any rights to it. It's rubbish. It has no grounding in reality. And so that's what I think we're trying to shift the industry, not just for gaming, but for any form of value that people can own or trade that is digital. My other prediction for the space is that we're going to see the modularization of all of the tech stacks that exist in gaming today, and also the sort of, I guess, the decentralization of it. So one of the things that really excites me is that the open and composable nature of an NFT means that you can build business models that didn't exist before. So now we have guilds who find games that they think are undervalued and say, well, hey, we're going to play it, but first we're going to buy tokens. And so they effectively become these sort of market-driven marketing forces, which find undervalued games and help bring them to light of the market, which is what the job of like publishers paying Google for ads essentially does today. And so we're seeing all sorts of basically brand new business models emerge. We're absolutely going to see financial markets emerge on top of this stuff. Anything with this level of primary value being traded gets derivatives, gets secondary financial markets, gets literally trading desks. And so I think we'll see, Goldman Sachs have trading desks for Fortnite skins in 5 or 10 years, and them trading billions and billions of dollars in futures or shorts or index funds. Because ultimately what we're talking about is one of the largest locked sources of value that we have today, which is $100 billion in in-game items, suddenly becoming this open and composable and tradable asset class.
How about you, Alex?
Yeah, I mean, so in 5 years, yeah, I think Robbie mentioned it. Like, I think games will be games, right? Some games will be using Web3 technology to enhance the user experience in the sense that, people can have true ownership of their game items. And I think, the expectations from the users over time will be that all games at least offer some kind of true ownership. And I think it has to, right? So I think when I'm looking at, for example, regulation, right? There's a lot of talk about how can we regulate the industry? It has to come, I think, if the users don't want this, right, the regulators will actually try to shut it down. So what I see is that there has to be like a tide from the people themselves who have actually been abused for so long from these traditional game studios, that that tide will come in and then force the regulators to be friendly to this new industry. And I think that will be one of the key things that will make it easier for, make it more transparent, make it more safe for the users to actually enter this industry. So in 5 years, yeah, ideally we have very clear regulation. We have people, we have all these games that are built using this tech, and then that more and more and more users will, expect that this to be inside games. And maybe 10, 15 years, every game will be built using blockchain tech to an extent.
Okay, so we have some extra time. So I want you guys to drop like the first thought that comes into your mind, just 1 or 2 sentences for these keywords. Let's do the order with like Robbie Young, and then Alexander, and then Robbie Ferguson, right? So the first thing is AR.
AR, I think definitely AR is going to be a part of Web3 and Web3 games because it has very broad-based distribution, provided it's done through your mobile device. So I think, there are some exciting things going on. And in fact, we have a couple of companies we've invested in who are doing great AR stuff, not necessarily location-based, but when you can own things like pets, for example, of course, it would be great to be able to see them in your space in AR.
Yeah, the only thought I had when you said AR was cute, because I think, it's a cute use case, but I don't see that actually being the main driver. I think it's just another thing that will be built, that will be another benefit.
Yeah, so. Agreed.
AR to me is, I think, how we'll have the metaverse overlay social identities. So I think it's really likely, like we have VTubers today where you interact with a favorite YouTuber and they're wearing a mocap suit. Maybe your friends in the future, you just skin them however you like, not in a violent way, as in you can put a Fortnite skin on them and people can interact in different ways. And so like this is really untethering a lot of the digital innovation we're seeing today into the real world, which is scary, but also kind of awesome.
Apple.
As in the company.
Yeah, the platform.
No, the fruits, please explain.
So
tasty.
I think Apple will continue, just like Google, to have a dominant role in the game industry, and I think it's just a matter of a lot of us in the game industry are waiting to see what Apple, in terms of senior leadership decides that they want the direction of their embrace of Web3 to be in the App Store. So it's kind of the ball's in their court.
Yeah, I have two. I think, first, apples are great, incredibly tasty. Second one is that I think they're the final boss when it comes to distribution channels. And, that, as I said, the pressure will have to come from the users. We can try to work within their limitations, but in the end, right, this is a brand new thing that they have to embrace to an extent. Like if they're locking out users from actually owning their game items, it's going to be a problem for them in the future.
Closed ecosystem.
How about you, Robbie? That's it?
Yeah, I mean, to me, that is the definition of Apple. It's what their business model is built on. Every great technology company takes actions built on what is most profitable for the political technology world they want to live in. So this is why Google was such a force for good in terms of building open source alternatives to iOS and to Microsoft, because they had to make the web more open for search to become more valuable. Apple, in kind, invests in privacy products because that's a differentiation that doesn't curb their monetization. And in fact, it entrenches their moat compared to competitors. And so the incentives fundamentally are what determine the policy decisions of these companies. For the first time ever, the incentives of Web3 mean that these companies, whether they're small or like $2 trillion, like we're seeing today, make decisions that are in the fundamental interests of users and the players themselves. And so that is, I think, the difference between the companies that are emerging in Web3 and sort of the old tech giants.
Okay, next, the last one is Solana Phone.
Okay, so I'll start. Solana Phone, I'm knowing absolutely nothing about it except that it's been announced, then I will say it's a great thing because it will be a distribution vector for Web3. So anything that onboards more players into the ecosystem from a game developer's perspective, absolutely a great thing.
Yeah, I'm also bullish on innovation in general. I think it's nice that they're trying. I've seen it happen before with there was another crypto phone. I think even HTC. Yeah, that's right. And even HTC tried a little bit. But yeah, Solana perhaps. Overall, though, keep shipping, keep trying. We'll see what happens.
Ambitious. Look, we'll say SBF has pulled off more difficult challenges in the past. So I'm not going to say impossible, but there have been no successful entrants into the mobile hardware space in a significant sense, pretty much since the invention of the iPhone.
And this is a big challenge as opposed to just propping up the entire crypto financial markets, which he's doing at the moment.
Exactly. So what is if anyone's going to airdrop it or do some, yeah.
Last point, if Web3 is all about the community, right? So if anyone wants to work for you guys or get into your companies, what's your number one advice?
I think just, obviously people know how to reach us. You can find us through our website or through social media, LinkedIn, all these kind of channels. Feel free to reach out to us. We're always interested to talk to people who are building interesting stuff, people who are looking for jobs. We get inquiries all the time and love the fact that people are interested in what we do. So please, I encourage you to reach out.
Yeah, I mean, we're always hiring in Sky Mavis too. Just Google Sky Mavis jobs and you'll see all of the applications, all of the jobs that we have open. And even if we don't have something that's open, you can probably send an email to partnerships@skymavis.com with an open application, and maybe there's a fit for you. And that also goes for game studios, right? If you want to get in touch with us, partnerships@skymavis.com. It's the place to find us.
So we have 120 open roles right now. We're growing really rapidly. One of the things is we hire globally the best talent. We have an incredibly high talent bar, but you do not need to be a Web3 expert. In fact, some of our best people come from Web2 who are just passionate about how this technology is transforming people's lives. And we really specialize in kind of bringing these people up to speed, because ultimately there's a very, very small pool of talent in Web3 today. And to get the talent bars we need, whether you're a BD or you're in product, you're in engineering, we really want to pull these people from everywhere. So don't hesitate if you have no Web3 experience before.
Okay, that's it. Any last words that you want to share with the viewers?
So I think the only thing I might add is something that we talked about, sort of alluded to earlier in the conversation, which is a lot of the best, most creative, interesting stuff was built in 2018 and 2019 and came out in 2020, 2021. So I think, keep building.
Yeah, I mean, what we saw in the last bear market was, even more brutal than this, guys. I think at one point
Yes.
Ether was at $89 or something. I think I remember feeling that, is my life over or something like that. We're not quite there yet. I can understand that it might feel like that for some very new entrants here. The only thing I can say is that nothing great was built in a day. Keep it up. That's it. Ship good products and people will if your product is good enough, you will see success.
Yeah, echoing what these guys said, there's so much talent and so much capital pouring into the space. Those are real indicators of where the industry is going. And so whether the market goes down another 50%, whether it rebounds tomorrow, the true indicators of what will happen in 3, 5, 10 years time is where are the best ambitious people going? Where is the best VC capital going? And it all points to Web3 and it all points to gaming.
Yeah, for me, like the happiest people in the bear market are the builders, So if you've been been a pure speculator, maybe try becoming a builder or helping builders, and you would be helping the industry recover and also like not be so depressed with the prices.
Yeah, I think maybe I'll touch on that a little bit too, right? Because we see, especially in Axie, right, having brought so many new people into the crypto industry, right, that the level of education that people might have in relation to not only crypto, but generally speaking, financial technology is pretty low. So in bear markets is the best way to educate yourself. Like, what is the actually underlying, like, why does this make sense or why does this not make sense? What is actually the benefit of crypto? What is the benefit of saving funds, saving money? Like, use this time wisely, educate yourself, and be more, either start building something yourself or be more ready to seize the opportunities as the next bull market begins. Because nothing is ever. I mean, I'm not going to say that, as Robbie says, that it's likely that it could happen that the market goes down further. We don't know. Nobody knows if the market is going up, sideways, whatever. But we just have to keep shipping and prepare. That's it.
Yeah, you can go back to like Bitcoin. Bitcoin was such a esoteric technology, but the only way that it survived was just like the appeal of being a decentralized alternative. And you have like really early evangelism, and I think that's still kind of the recipe for success in this space. Like in the last few months or few quarters, like there's so much passive speculating in the space, and I really think that that more evangelism and really true support should come back to the space, and that will really help build a sturdy ecosystem. And that's I think that's what we need for the next bull market to happen. Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, guys. Everyone for watching.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Crypto hacks are on the rise and constantly in the news, with hundreds of millions of dollars lost every month. Don't be the next big hack everyone's talking about. Get smart and get audited today before it's too late.
Did someone say P-A-R-T-Y? This is your official invite to one of the coolest spots in Geckoland thanks to QTUM. They will not only be hosting the music stage broadcasting live all the way from Cartagena, Colombia, but also other fun activities throughout Geckoland in the QTUM realm. Spoiler alert, it's gonna be amazing! Don't forget your dancing shoes. Yeah!